Hi. Today I thought I could talk about fantasies. When I think about fantasies and I think about like how people connect a lot of the times, most of the times people relate to other people from their ideas of them rather than actually taking general interest and curiosity in getting to know a person. And not everyone does this, but we live in a very mind-centered world, or at least in the United States, in the Western culture. People tend to be a little bit more heady than they do hearty. And there tends to be a, a pattern of relating to people based on what we think about them rather than actually taking general interest and curiosity of who they are as people. And a lot of times we tend to connect to people from a place of fantasy. And fantasy is always coming from a place of, I look at every reason why this person is a yes, and I ignore all the reasons why this person might be a no. All the red flags I barely look at or consider at all, and all the reasons why I like this person are only the things I focus on. And you can also think about this as like relating to people based off their potential than rather where they actually are at. But a good way to tell this is when I'm moving into relationships, am I looking and exploring why this person might be a no just as much or as more than why I think they might be a yes? Because the more picky we can be when we're heading into relationships, really all picky is being discerning, and we should never feel like we need to settle or compromise for for a person in front of us if we think we could attract someone's better, because every no you give to a person redirects you and redirects them to a closer and closer yes until you say enough no's where the universe goes. They're no longer willing to settle or compromise for less than the actual soulmate divine partnership that they could attract. And that level of not willing to compromise is actually what will attract the partner of your dreams, that you can feel viscerally this is the right person. And a good way to tell if you're in a relationship based on your ideas of that person, or you're in the right relationship for you on all levels, is, do you say, I think this is my soulmate, I think this is my partner, I think this is my fiance, or do you viscerally feel and know that this is my person? And a lot of people lead with their mind, and if something, you can always tell, the mind never is able to fully know what the right choice is unless it talks to your heart. And it's why we can ping pong back and forth 10,000 times from, I think I need to make this choice. No, I should make this choice. Wait, no, that choice. And we weigh the pros and cons, and we can never figure out which choice we actually need to make because we're not feeling into which choice feels the best, because our heart is meant to lead the way, and our mind then understands in hindsight or after the choice is made how the heart knew what it knew. It understands. It goes, oh, now I can see this and this after making the choice, and now I get why it felt good to move in this direction. And it doesn't mean we blindly follow our heart. We always double check with our mind of, does this choice logically make sense? And I made a different video about this of like 90% of the choices you make are going to also long-term logically make sense. And if it doesn't logically make sense, then it could just be an impulse and not your intuition. And the way to double check if it's just something that's like a flash of something that is just something that's passing through, or actually our intuition of telling us a direction to move in, is long term, is this the right choice for me? And it's also something to think about in our relationships, in romantic partnerships. Long term, does this person make sense? If I'm a vegetarian, does this person's diet line up with mine? Because like the pain of having to cook different meals every night, long term, at least from my perspective, would suck. For some people, maybe it works. But long term, is this someone who's going to fit into my life well? Is this someone who's encouraging, supportive, pulls out the best in me in every moment? Or is this just someone I'm settling and compromising for because I don't think I'm going to be able to find someone better? And the moment we make a choice of who we're choosing in a relationship is the moment we're telling the universe that there's no one else better for me, and the universe will let you play out most of the time that relationship and leave that relationship before you're going to find a person who actually could meet you better. And a lot of the times when we move into relationships, it affects all those around us, and the people who would be interested in getting to know us or might fit us better take less of an interest because they know you're in a relationship. And so we have to say, is this person someone who I really think on all levels, or really think and know that this person meets me deeper than I've ever felt before? Or is this someone who's just helping me not feel so alone? That's being a distraction from all the time I would spend alone if I wasn't dating this person. And when we're thinking about fantasies, another part of fantasies is the fantasies we have. And are the fantasies that we have making us rush towards outcomes rather than taking our time to slowly get to know people and actually weighing if this person is right? Do we go, I don't want to be alone, I want to be in partnership, I want to have kids? Maybe it's even I'm getting older, I'm in my late 30s, and my time to have kids is running out if I'm a female. And so I'm rushing into a relationship just to help get to the outcome. But if you're rushing, just like if you're driving fast on the highway, it's a lot easier to miss the right exit, to miss the signs if we're going 100 miles an hour rather than if we're going like the actual speed limit, an actual healthy speed. And I would say a healthy speed is really just taking the time to be interested and curious about a person without any expectation. No matter how attractive they are, no matter how much they check the boxes in your life, just because someone checks the boxes doesn't mean they're the right person for you. And it's a good way to see if you're relating people from a place of fantasy, because if you go, oh, they check all the boxes, they must be my person. That's not really actually taking the time to slowly allow your heart to open up to them and actually take the time to feel into, is this the right person for me? And if we meet a person and we get to know them and we feel an I don't know, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily for sure the wrong person. We all have to trust our inner intuition. But we don't move into a partnership, a relationship, until we for sure know it's a hell yes. And if it feels like an I don't know, the word no is literally in the sentence for a reason. And oftentimes when we meet people who are I don't knows in partnership, it's because there's some aspects of them that are really awesome, and there's some aspects of them that are really not awesome. And if we say, I don't know, it's because we're doubting our discernment of, they have these really great qualities and we love those qualities, but we're doubting why they're a no. We're doubting of, I don't really want to look at why this person might not be it, because I just don't want to be alone. And that's why we say, I don't know. And if we were clear on, I'm going to be discerning of, unless they viscerally feel with my heart in my being that this is the right person, then I don't necessarily move past friends with them. And I can take the time to get to know them and double check my heart and my intuition and double check the I don't know. But the I don't know is telling you why. And if you dated someone who's an I don't know, at the end of the relationship, you'd go, how did I not know sooner? How did I not see all these things? And you did. You just ignored them. And we all have our own journey, and there's no shame. We all have to explore things, and some people find teachings on relationships like early, and some people find them later in life. And it's all okay. Our journeys are okay. We we go through experiences to learn and to grow, and some milestones we hit quickly and other milestones take a little bit longer for us to get. And it's okay, whatever kind of relationships we've been or whatever kind of patterning we've played out. And I'm certainly someone, when I was like younger and coming of age, who was extremely codependent, who felt like I needed another person to make better choices, who felt like that that a relationship was what was going to make me feel better, and I was just craving a relationship, craving a partner, even craving sex, because I thought those things would make me feel more valuable for how unvaluable I felt at that time. And as I sat with those feelings, as I started to slowly grow out of that over time, what I realized is all I was searching for was a greater connection with myself. All I was searching for, me, the adult, Luke, being more there for me and pointing out more value within me, pointing out more of what I was doing right, and taking the time to encourage and support myself no matter how hard life was, no matter how painful experiences were. I just was looking for myself, and I thought that I was going to find that love in a partner, in sex, in connecting with others like that. And what I realized as I grew out of that is I was just looking for myself. I was just looking for the greater love that I wasn't being shown at the time from my family. And while my family is beautiful, there's been some experiences that are a little hard to get through. And during that time, because I wasn't finding it in the external, I thought, and what I didn't have was like a girlfriend or someone to date. I thought that's where it was. And what I found was, after living life and experiencing life, that the universe was giving me that time alone to point myself back towards me and say, if you need something, what if you met that first? Because that's where your wholeness is going to come from. That's where balance is going to come from. That's where harmony is going to come from. And it's been a long journey from that to the person I am now. It didn't happen overnight. I didn't one day wake up out of it. It's been a slow self-love grind of, how can I say the words to myself that I've always wanted to hear from other people? How can I compliment myself and give myself the compliments I've always wanted to hear from other people? And and how can I be the person that encourages and supports myself like no one else showed me how to do in my life? And as I did that more and more, I started to wake up from the feeling like I need others, and becoming more aware of, when I'm getting to know people, are there underlying desires I feel? And are those underlying desires pushing me into relationships faster than I'm actually taking time to get to know this person? And can I put those desires on the back burner as I get to know people? Because real maturity is being aware of our desires, but also being mindful of, is this a safe person to enact to play out those desires with? And our fantasies, like for me, I used pornography in high school, and so sexual fantasies were a really big thing. But you realize about any fantasy you have, and I'd say the difference between fantasies and dreams is usually fantasies are chasing some type of dopamine hit, some type of stimulation that's usually ignoring, like, is this substance actually going to be supportive for my body, actually going to be supportive of my heart, or it's usually ignoring the parts of, after this person leaves, we feel more heartbroken. After we use this substance to avoid our feelings, we feel worse the next day. We feel guilty. We feel shamed. And fantasies are always coming from a place of, in our head, they look awesome. In our head, we go, this is a great idea. And then if we played it out, we start to realize that what we were missing in that moment was the connection to our heart and how our heart feels as it goes through that experience. And so when we're connecting to others, can we be aware of our fantasies, even aware of our fantasies of them? And as we're aware of it, choosing to make choices that feel the most nourishing to our well-being, to our heart, rather than feeding the patterns of fantasies, feeding the patterns of ideas, because the more we feed them, the more they have more power and sway over us. And one of the things I found from waking up from pornography is pornography feeds sexual fantasies. It's basically a pattern of feeding sexual. It creates incredible levels of fantasies within people's minds, and they relate to life from a place of their fantasies and thinking that sex is like the best way to connect with people. And in truth, there's so many different ways to show love with a person other than sex. And sex is also, while sex is great and beautiful, it's also the quickest way for heartbreak and hurt, because it's like the most intimate thing you can share with another person. And if we rush towards sex, we're also rushing towards heartbreak. and we being mindful of, if I'm chasing big stimulating experiences, the bigger the wave of stimulation, the faster the crash on the other end. And what I found from using pornography and waking up from it and stop using it was that it just was creating greater fantasies of sex, and it was making me think that sex was the best way to connect with people, when in truth, when we put our desires for sex on the back burner, people feel far more safe with us. People feel far more comfortable being open and vulnerable with you, because they know you're not just taking interest with them and hope that they will have sex with you, because they can feel, people most of the time can feel the difference whether you're taking general interest in them or you're taking interest in them hoping that this will lead to sex. And the people that take interest in people hoping that it leads to sex also have rather short levels of interest, and when it doesn't lead to sex, they then tend to push that person away or try and find someone else to meet that desire. And so when we're being intentional about how we're connecting with others, it's important to think about our desires and be aware of our desires, and not allow our desires to push us things that aren't going to be supportive towards our heart and other people's hearts. Because one of the things people don't talk about is unconsciousness, pain, darker, heavier energies are aware that if more people have sex on the planet, more people then have looser boundaries. It's taking something that's supposed to be sacred, something you're supposed to share with someone who's committed and devoted to you, and its unconsciousness wants it to make it the most casual thing ever. Because unconsciousness understands, if I can make things that are sacred casual, then people will feel less value. People will feel more worthless. There will be more, if people have more sex with more people and have looser boundaries, there will be more heartbreak and hurt on the other side of it, and there will be more things people need to heal on this planet, which will allow unconsciousness to continue to control and manipulate people for longer. And so one of the most empowered choices we can make is when we get to know people, is putting sex on the back burner and saying, I'm just going to be interested and curious in this person, and I'm going to wait to share sex with someone I'm dating. Because any type of casual relationships is just feeding subtle patterns of unconsciousness, subtle patterns of chasing stimulation and avoiding our feelings, which is another word for unconsciousness. And you can doubt me or say that I'm wrong. It really doesn't matter. And I also want to add that whatever we need to like if we feel like we have to explore casual relationships to wake up from it, that's okay. There's no shame. I'm not here to shame or guilt anyone for their choices. Whatever you need to explore is okay. But the more we can prioritize our being interested and curious with people, rather than rushing towards outcomes, rushing towards fulfilling desires, the more peaceful and harmonious and stable our life will be. And that's the thing I would really like to leave with this or end on this conversation is the less we're chasing high levels of stimulation, the less there's going to be crashes as that high level comes down, and the smaller waves there will be in our life. And another way for having smaller ways or having a little bit more of a simple life with less chaotic relationships, another word for that is peace, is harmony, is balance. And the only reason for creating this video is that hopefully something I said will help you or someone else, or something you share with another person, find a little bit more peace, harmony, and balance in their life. Oh, because we all deserve soulmates. We all deserve partners that meet us on all levels, but we have to be willing to be strong in our nose and be clear of what we're not willing to settle and compromise for. And the more picky we can be, the more we are going to be directed to that hell yes, to that knowing of this is my right person. And the more clear we are in our boundaries, the more valuable we'll feel, the more empowered we'll feel, and the more free we will feel, and the less powerless we'll feel to any desires, any chasing of needs, and any little levels of unconsciousness still left within us, because we all are different levels of consciousness, awareness, and unconsciousness, and we're all on a healing journey, and we all have patterns that we're waking up from, and we're not always going to get it perfect, but as we feel our patterns without feeding them, and we can think about what are the choices I'm making that maybe feel like a little bit like they're more numbing us, feeding fantasies. Maybe it's like staring at hot people on social media for long periods of time, or whatever we feel like that's feeding fantasies. And with us, can we be a little bit more mindful of those choices and feed those patterns less? Because as we feed them, we're only going to find greater empowerment and freedom, and we all deserve to feel that, and that is our birthright. And maybe we weren't given good examples of that growing up or raised in families who embodied that. But I really feel like this generation and generations to come is our time to start to feel that as humanity more and more, and move into empowered, conscious, enlightened beings that we are. And we're in a world that's waking up from unconsciousness, waking up from pain, waking up from control and manipulation. And the more we can be aware of our choices and choose differently from our patterns, or choose differently from those before us, the more we are going to feel and be reminded of how incredible we are, because we're all incredible. We're all amazing. And even if you feel like you're not choosing good, you're still incredible, you're still beautiful, you're still amazing. Your choices do not define you, but they do help you feel that way a little bit more often when you're willing to make your most mature and responsible choices. So I hope that helps. Thank you for listening, and bye.